Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show. I'll be your host this week, Ali. You can follow me on Twitter at FFDynastyGrill. With me as always is my amazing, beautiful co-host, Kev, who you can follow on Twitter at Dynasty_GOAT. How are you doing tonight, Kev?
Good evening, Ali. How are you? No, I'm doing really good. Thank you very much. It's the best two of Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty tonight. Obviously, no Matt. We've got the Grill and Goat, so it's going to be a fiery show. We've got a firing to talk about early on, but yeah, some brilliant names to discuss tonight as well. So looking forward to getting into that with you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Fantasy was okay this week, not the best, much better last week, but we're still hanging in there. We're still fighting away like the Buccaneers. We're hopefully getting ourselves back in contention.
Already started.
Yeah. So with that, you will notice that Matt is not here this week, as Kev has just mentioned. A bit like his Giants, he's taken a bye week this week, so hopefully back next week, ripping up the Houston Texans. So yeah, we'll see you soon, Matt. And I've got a shout out to do tonight, Kev. We can't continue the show without mentioning Hannah Rowland, part of the Fantasy Wildcard Rewind crew. Yes. Absolutely smashing it in the Scott Fish Bowl. I've seen you and Matt are doing pretty good in the Scott Fish Bowl. I'm doing absolutely terribly. But Hannah Rowland, who you can follow on Twitter at Han Rowland, he's up to 20th on the leaderboard out of what, 3,000? That is absolutely fantastic for her first time as well. She's absolutely smashing it. So we are going to follow her journey from right now to the playoffs through to the title, and she's going to take it home back to Britain. So well done to Hannah.
Yeah, to be in that top 1% on your first ever appearance in the tournament is truly fantastic. And yeah, she's got a better chance than definitely than me of winning it this year. So yeah, just well done to Hannah, and keep it up and bring it home for not for the UK, bring it home for Fantasy Wildcard.
Definitely the wild card. So yeah, well done, Hannah. And we'll move on to some big news this week. There's been the second head coach firing, and Kev, the Indianapolis Colts, have said they've had enough of this guy, Frank Reich, given his marching orders after a dismal game against the Patriots. They've obviously installed Jeff Saturday as their interim head coach. I think he was an ESPN analyst, if I'm not wrong. It's going to be really interesting what goes on this week, and especially going forward. We are a Dynasty show, so we'll talk about the Dynasty implication of that. So Kev, what are your initial thoughts? Because it only happened, I think, yesterday. Yeah, just talk us through. You're obviously the Frank Reich expert, being the Eagles legend. So yeah, sum up your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, initially the thoughts come to sort of the owner, Jim Irsay, the fact that he made Frank Reich put Sam Ehlinger in the lineup. So I think after that, the writing was on the wall that he's been undermined and he's not controlling the team. So it's not a shock that he's gone. I think he will find a job really soon, because he was a top-class coach at the Eagles, and then doing a pretty good job, I think, with the Colts overall. They lost a couple of close games to beat the Chiefs early on this season, which knocked me out of the survivor pool, which was disgusting. But yeah, QB wise, they've got to be considering going back to Matt Ryan. I think just are they going to embrace the tank and rest Jonathan Taylor, Matt Ryan, and play Sam Ehlinger? But people, I guess Colts fans do want that, because they want to get as high up the board as possible. There's talks of long-term rebuilds, including Marvin Harrison's son and Peyton Manning's, I don't know if it's his brother or son or something, he's that old, but the one in the Arch Manning. But yeah, I think QB-wise, you've got to see a change there. But the interesting spin I'm going to take on QB is Carson Wentz. Now, that might be a bit of a shock to people that I'm talking about Carson Wentz, but a lot of the hate for Wentz is the fact he got a second chance in Indy, and he lasted one season. His good mate, Frank Reich, got rid of him, it seemed. But this, to me, it feels like Jim Irsay's pulling the strings a little bit, and maybe it wasn't Frank Reich's decision, maybe it was coming from above him, and that gives me maybe a little bit more hope on Carson Wentz that, yeah, he did get hounded out of Philly through his own fault in part, but also there was a statue of his back up outside the stadium, so you can understand why I was a little bit upset about that. So, yeah, Carson Wentz is an interesting one that I've got a little bit more hope in, just because it feels like his mate didn't give up on him. It's just the owner gave up on him instead. So, yeah, that's me on QB. What's your thoughts on running back?
Running back's a bit more simple, to be honest. We know that the Colts are a pretty dismal team after the way they start the season. Obviously, beat the Chiefs, as you mentioned, unbelievably. But since Jonathan Taylor's picked up that injury, Matt Ryan's was also injured and then didn't play very well. Stuck the Ellinger in at quarterback. We know it's only going to go one way for the Colts. They're miles out of first place in that division now. I think the Titans are absolutely running away with that. So, are they going to look to the future? Well, who knows? But in terms of running back, Jonathan Taylor's going to surely play unless they're just going into full tank mode. He needs to get himself better and healthy. But for fantasy, in the short term, you've still got to play him because you drafted him high. You've got a lot of value on your team. And then long term as well, do you look to move off him right now, or it's risky because his value is a lot lower right now than it was the start of the season? Is there a possibility to trade for him? Well, if you get him at the right price, that seems like a pretty decent move. He's still a very young running back with a lot of decent future. But what are the Colts going to look like going forward? It's going to be a big clear out. Is the GM going to lose his job? Who's actually going to be there to rebuild this organization? I always thought it was a pretty stable organization, to be honest. And I liked Frank Reich. I absolutely would love him to come and be the OC of the Buccaneers, or even take over as head coach. The fact we've got Muppets in charge, but yeah, in terms of running back, it's not really panic mode for Jonathan Taylor. It was already looking a pretty dismal season anyway, but he's still got a bright future. So that's running back. In terms of wide receivers, Kev, it's not looking too rosy for them. But how would you sum up for Dynasty?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a big worry for wide receivers and tight end. The fact that they've lost the head coach, they're probably going to lose the GM that drafted them as well. So you're going to get a completely new regime, new head coach, new GM, and guys like Michael Pittman, like Alec Pierce, who've had pretty decent draft capital. You wonder, there's no ties to them. Are they going to become secondary and tertiary options in the offense rather than 1 and 2 as such? So yeah, I'd be a little bit apprehensive about going out and thinking, yeah, it's going to be all great for these younger guys at wide receiver and tight end. I'd probably just play it a little bit safer. I think, like you mentioned on Taylor, there's no concern there really. You can't really be selling him while if his value does dip. He's one you've got to hold, but it does pose a question. If you are a win now team, is there any pivots you've got for this season? Because it could end up being a lost season. They could end up sitting him a little bit longer and playing it safe with him. So that's the main question you've got with Taylor. Will he sit? If you don't think he'll sit, you've got to keep him. But that's the burning question, I guess. But other than that, yeah, pretty apprehensive about these young pieces that have shone and might not shine in a new regime.
Certainly. We've seen it time and time before when new regimes come in, new coaches come in, they want to bring their guys in. If they don't believe in the guys that are already there, they're going to ship them out of town. So I was pretty high on Alec Pierce. I've got him in quite a few places, and obviously Michael Pittman. Everyone's high on Michael Pittman, so it'd be interesting to see what the values are like going forward. Is there trade opportunities, or do you want to pivot off them if you are contending? So with that, we'll move on to the main part of today's show. We're going to be reviewing week 9 of the NFL season. We're halfway through the season, Kev. It's pretty unbelievable.
Scary.
It is scary. We're going to be highlighting players that stood out to us and discussing a couple of trades to establish their all important dynasty value. So without further ado, over to you, Kev. We'll start with this week's league winner, but match winner. Possible league winner.
Could be a league winner. Yeah, this guy, he has got a bit of a history, a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a bully against the weaker teams, having these block games when everything's sort of in his favour to do so. So for him to have The running back won on the week, type of week. It's not a shock. I'm talking about Joe Mixon, 55.1 fantasy points, 5 touchdowns. Truly incredible week. Best week we've seen since Alvin Kamara a couple of Christmases ago, or 2 Christmases ago, whatever. With Mixon, it's moving up to running back 2 on the season, purely on points scored. But actually, if you go a little bit deeper and do it on fantasy points per game, which I think because he's not had his bye yet, he's got it this week. He's running back 6, which is still really good. But without a 55-point fantasy production, he's obviously a lot lower than that. I think the thing that's really impressed me with Mixon is the catch pace that he's on for 72 catches this season. His previous best in total was 43. So really nice to see him being used in the pass game more. He's 4th in running back receptions. He's also 2nd in routes run and route percentage. So really positive from that point of view. And that's obviously factoring in guys like Higgins has missed time, Jamar Chase has missed time as well. So that might not be 100% true, but it's still a lot better than he's previously been undergoing. Now, the reason that he's so high in fantasy is because 2 things, volume and opportunity. He's top 4 in snaps, in carries, targets, and red zone touches. But he's got really poor efficiency, things like yards created, etc. Are really poor. So he's actually getting by on a mega situation, a mega workload in a great offense. I think if we just look back in time a little bit, he's obviously talented. He's been a top 13 running back 3 times before. He's on his way to a 4th season doing that. So I think you can consider him really safe, really steady with that workload, that volume, the situation he's in. He is 27 next July. He's a free agent in 2025, but the way his contract is, it's year to year. Now, I don't personally see the Bengals moving on from Mixon while they've got this window with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins on rookie contracts. So I think the Bengals is a happy place for at least until the end of next season with Mixon. So you can be really confident with, if you're a contender, keeping him. If you're a retooling side, keeping him for another push next season as well. So there's no panic buttons in my eyes, despite him being 26. Keep trade cut. I've got him running back 11. I've got him a little bit higher, running back 9. I think you're a similar spot to that. But yeah, I think Mixon, while before this game, it wasn't looking a great year for him. I think just based on the situation, the workload, the pass game work, and just sort of the fact that he had a few injury concerns early on in his career, and he's not really had that for the last year and a half. So I think we can be really confident in him, and I'm interested to hear what you've got to say on him.
Well, we're not going to victory lap it because obviously he had the massive week, but we've always been higher than consensus on Joe Mixon, despite him, I suppose, getting up there in age. He's reaching that age where a lot of dynasty players like to move off their running backs and refresh them into younger players. But yeah, we're certainly seeing Joe Mixon absolutely dominate right now, and that offense is absolutely humming. You mentioned it there. He's obviously getting a lot more targets right now, more than he's ever got. And is it because of the Chase injury? I tend to think that a lot of it is. But just looking at his stats, he's got 9 targets inside the 20, which is second in the NFL, only behind Austin Eckler. Absolutely money if you got him in fantasy. I did mention he's going to be a league winner, and certainly the more time that Jamar Chase misses, then I think that's going to be the case. And then he leads the league in rushing attempts inside the 10-yard line. So the Bengals aren't always looking for T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and their tight ends. They're rushing it up the middle, and he's got 25 rushing attempts inside the 10, which is 6 more than any other running back. So yeah, absolutely dominating. And just before this week, you mentioned it's not been all rosy. He's only had 3 total touchdowns before this week. So it was looking a bit iffy for Mixon, but the opportunities have been there. Just go back to last year. By this time, he'd had 7 touchdowns before week 9. So we knew that he had so many touchdowns last year. It was whether he could keep up that rate this year. And it just fell fortunate how it is with Higgins and Jamar Chase that the opportunities have fallen to him. And as you mentioned, he has been volume dependent. Just 3.87 yards per carry on the ground is not great, but while he's getting this volume and there's nobody behind him to share the work, it's absolutely fantastic. And so, yeah, he's going to continue to be that while Jamar Chase is out, and we don't know when Jamar Chase is going to come back. I think it opens up a sell opportunity for me. I think you've touched on it, to be honest, Kev. If you're not competing and you're not retooling, if you are into a proper rebuild, I think it's a great opportunity to sell Joe Mixon for really high value, and just go for someone like a Javonte, like a Breeze, someone on IR is how a lot of us like to look at it. And you can probably get something on top as well, the way it's playing out. So with that, we'll move on to the Dynasty trade. So trade situation 1, Kev, I can offer you Joe Mixon plus a second for Breece Hall. What side of that trade are you on?
I think with the sort of age gap in the running backs, a lot will depend on where you're at. If you're a top 5 team, I don't think you can hold Breece Hall. Like you've got to be looking to move that asset to something that's going to help you win right now while you've got a shot at winning. Whether that be a younger running back like Travis Etienne, you might want to do that. But Joe Mixon, if I'm in with a sniff, I'll take the Mixon side and lose a little bit on Breece Hall and play into the factors of the injuries, and maybe he's not 100% perfect. So I'll take the Mixon on the second side, just purely on sort of your middle of the road or your win now teams.
Kev taking a pick side, it surprises me. Right, trade scenario 2. So Joe Mixon or Dameon Pierce and a 23-second.
Right, well, I'm not taking the pick side on this one, so you'll be pleased to hear that. Yeah, I think Dameon Pierce has done fantastically well, better than a lot of people's expectations, even people that had him high in the rookie rankings. There's no way they're ranking where he's currently going to keep trade cut. So, yeah, Joe Mixon's me on that one. I think he's quite far ahead of Dameon Pierce in that second, even though he's a 23-second. I think Dameon Pierce is a little bit of a mirage, a bit of an oasis, a bit of a figment of the imagination.
Yeah, day 3 running back, we tend to try and stay away as best as we can and not get too much hope into them. The third one is Joe Mixon and a 23 first or Austin Eckler.
You're a naughty boy. You know my feelings on Austin Eckler. I've got Eckler ranked really high, top 3 in my rankings currently for Dynasty, despite him being 27 years old. So this is a really tough one. I think I would take the Mixon and 23 first side on this, just because Eckler's at peak. He is getting a lot of receptions due to the fact that Allen and Williams aren't there. His touchdowns are high, but he was on a similar pace last season, both rushing and receiving. So I just feel this is peak Eckler. If I'm getting a swing at a 23 first, give me that. And I'd fancy Mixon to get pretty close to Eckler next season, which is, if you're taking the first, you're probably looking at next season being a bigger push than this.
Yeah, completely agree. I'll take the Joe Mixon side. I don't think if he's on his current pace at the minute, Joe Mixon is not going to be too far away from Austin Eckler come the end of the season. So to get that first, even if it's the last pick in the first round, you're going to get a really decent prospect with some really good value. So with that, we'll move on to my selection, and I'll go for a quarterback who is possibly in the MVP race, according to some people over Twitter and in the NFL media. I'm going for Tua. Absolutely dominating, to be honest. The Miami Dolphins are right there in the AFC playoff picture. Quarterback 4 on the week, and he's up to quarterback 7 in points per game is what we like to look at 19.96 points per game. And then he's up to quarterback 11 on the season. That's despite missing a couple of games with that horrible looking injury and the concussion, whether he should have been in there in the first place. But yeah, 15 touchdowns just to 3 interceptions. He's really cleaned up a lot of his mistakes from last season in 2021. He had 16 total touchdowns to 10 interceptions. So he's on a much better pace than that this season. But looking at his rushing output, it's completely dried up. There seems to be no rushing from Tua right now. So he's taken a little bit of that floor away. But then the fact they've added, obviously, Tyreek Hill, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, it certainly negates that and more some on top of that. And then just looking back at last year, just to see how much of a step he's taken, just the one game with 300 yards passing in 2021. I mean, he's really had 3 this year in just 7 games played. So, yeah, he's really up there as, for me, a dynasty quarterback 1 right now, or just on the fringe. Certainly, a lot of people are looking at him in the MVP race, and it's hard to argue against it when just going forward for what he's done already this year, and then going forward for now and into the next couple of seasons, the fact that he's got those 2 amazing weapons. He's currently got a fairly decent tight end as well in Mike Gesicki. It's looking really good for Tua, which I'm certainly thankful for my take. I had him higher than Joe Burrow coming out, which was looking a bit embarrassing, but certainly now Tua, hopefully he's past all the injury concerns that he's had. He's not had the best of times with the bad rib injury coming in, and then the dangerous concussion injury. But yeah, again, the argument was at the start of the season, how do we rank Waddle and Tyreek Hill in Dynasty? And I certainly struggled. I had big doubts on whether Tua could support 2 really good wide receivers. But just look at them right now. Tyreek Hill, the wide receiver 1 in fantasy, and Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver 5 in fantasy. I mean, that's something that Josh Allen hasn't done right now. Patrick Mahomes has not got 2 wide receivers up there. It is incredible what Tua is doing. And it's just great to watch them. It's great to watch that Miami Dolphins offense, just bomb after bomb. You know, Tyreek Hill's down there somewhere. Yeah, he'll underthrow it slightly, but he'll still get to him, still catch it. But yeah, it's really good times for Tua. And certainly his dynasty rank has taken a massive increase from the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see Tua actually performing at what is near his ceiling. The fact that he's a QB1 comfortably. I've got to admit, I did have some pause whether he could get to that and support 2 top 12 dynasty wide receivers. I felt that he could be a QB1, but I didn't feel he could do it by sort of propping up both Hill and Waddle. I thought there might be a loser in that, but as we've seen with Devontae Adams for the Raiders, it's not always about the QB. Elite wide receivers, they can do it with whoever's at QB, and that's no disrespect to Tua, but he's not Pat Mahomes. He has done amazing though. Like, really pleased he was your QB1 coming out, my QB1, Matt's QB1. So it's taken a while, but he's slowly getting there. He's still got a bit of ways to go to catch Herbert and Burrow, but he's on the right path. He's done fantastically well. The fact that he's had a pretty nasty concussion injury, and he's not lost a beat at all. He's come back, and people have forgotten that he had that concussion injury now, just because of how consistent, how good he's been the past few weeks as well. So really pleased for Tua. He definitely deserves to be in the top 12 conversation. But how high can he get in the QB1 conversation? Maybe our little trades will help you decide where we're at on him. So trade number 1 I've got for you. It had to be one that included Joe Burrow. So I've got you Tua and a 23 first, or Joe Burrow and a 23 second.
Oh, wow. Again, you've got to start projecting where the 23 first is going to be. Clearly, if it's an early first, I'm going to be taking the Tua side. It's middle of the road. Well, with that, then, I'm going to be taking the Joe Burrow side, who has solidified himself in my dynasty quarterback rankings. Having a great season himself. He's got the amazing weapons, just like Tua has. That Bengals offense has got the same firepower, if not more firepower than the Miami Dolphins offense. I've got no concerns about Burrow going forward. He's about 5 or 6 spots higher than Tua in my rankings. So the fact that it's just going to be a round drop that I'm going to give up in value from the first to a second, I'll take that, and I'll get Joe Burrow as my quarterback going forward.
Very interesting. I'm going to go to because I've not been always a big Joe Burrow fan, and 23 firsts, it's hard to get me off those. Trade 2 then, gone for guys similar to you more or less. Tua or Dak Prescott?
Yeah, we might disagree on this one as well, to be honest, looking at our rankings, but I'm going to take the Dak Prescott side, and I will say these two are in the same tier as each other. But Dak Prescott, I'm just going to go for what I think is the better the overall quarterback. Dak Prescott is still a fairly young quarterback. The offense isn't as good as it obviously was. You've got the running back. I can't think of his name right now.
Which one? The Cowboys? Zeke?
Yeah.
Pollard?
Yeah, Zeke Elliott. Right now, who's obviously getting up there in age. How much longer has he got? Pollard is on his final season. So the offense could look very different going forward. But I'm just going to take the guy that I think is the better player. The guy that I trust, Dak Prescott, who has got that rushing ability as well. And then if OBJ signs there, then yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, but I think this one is really tough because Dak, you've got someone that's done it before that's got a rushing upside, which Tua really hasn't shown the rushing upside. He's not been a top 5 QB before either. So I'm not going to call anyone a scumbag for taking Dallas playing in Dak Prescott. I have got Tua ranked higher in my rankings because I just feel that we've not fully seen the ceiling with what he's done with these two guys. I think they can add more weapons and continue to flourish. And plus, I'm just a little bit unsure on Dak. Like Amari Cooper, he's obviously an amazing wide receiver because I think I've just got a little bit of pause on Dak. Just for it might, if you ask me in 4 weeks when he's come back and done it a little bit more after the injury, I might change my mind. But yeah, Tua for me on that one. And then your last one is Tua or Derek Carr and a 23 second.
Yeah, this is definitely close in terms of value wise, but I'll just take the guy. You've just mentioned how impressive Tua has been with them weapons. That chemistry is only going to continue to get better. Derek Carr's not impressed me this year, to be honest. He's got Devontae Adams, who is hyper targeting. Okay, Darren Waller, who their other big target there, is pretty much missed most of the season. But I'm just not that impressed with Derek Carr generally. The future for Derek Carr and that Raiders team, I mean, they're a bit of a mess right now. The record 2-7, I think they are. It's not great. I'll just take Tua on an exciting offense for a playoff team with them two weapons, and I'll take the age as well.
Yeah, agreed.
Excellent. And with that, we'll move on to our next player, Kev, and it's someone who's teammate of Tua's.
Yeah, if you're a Dolphins fan, you're going to be loving this show because I'm talking about a guy that stood out for me for his flip more than anything. It was TYREEK this week. Wide receiver 2 on the week, 7 catches, 143 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver 1 on the season, which moving from Pat Mahomes to any other QB and becoming the wide receiver 1 is pretty wild. But small pause, it's wide receiver 3 in fantasy points per game, just behind Diggs and Cup, who've had their bye weeks, and TYREEK's got his coming up soon. But in terms of yardage for TYREEK, he's on pace to smash it. He's got 1,104 already. His best ever with Pat Mahomes was 1,479. So he's gonna, if he doesn't get injured, he's gonna smash that. Downside is touchdown wise only 3 this season so far. He's had seasons of 15 and 12 before, which we probably shouldn't expect from a less high flying offense than the Chiefs. But maybe he's due some touchdown regression. Maybe not. Maybe he does get underthrown balls from Tua. Just kidding. But yeah, throughout his career, TYREEK's been immense. Wide receiver 1 every season that he plays a full slate. I have to admit, I did have concerns regarding the move from KC to Miami, but that's been put to bed. He leads the league in targets. He's got 100 targets. He also leads them in 76 receptions. But looking deeper than just the main stats that we all can see, looking at some of the metrics, there's some absolutely sexual metrics out there. It leads the league in air yards, in deep targets, in yards per route run. These are all really, really important metrics that sort of define wide receiver success and exactly how dominant he's been. So yeah, he's known as a cheater, but I think right now TYREEK feels like he's a cheater code, isn't he? Really, just a cheat code in fantasy. If you've got him in your lineups, you are extremely happy with how he's performing for you. 28 years old, that could be a little bit of a negative because of the way he wins with his speed. That's got to be slowing down in the next couple of years. But yeah, I think it's a minor blip. He's got the long-term contract. The earliest out is 2026. He's wide receiver 5 at Keep Trade Cut, which with him being 28 years old, I didn't think he'd be that high. But then again, there's other guys up there like Cup and Diggs with a similar age or older that are up there. So a little bit higher than my ranking of wide receiver 7, but I just think Tyreek Hill's done amazingly well. I'd expect the chemistry to continue to grow with Tua as they go on. He's done fantastically to support him as well. So really happy if you've got Tyreek. I don't think it's a short-term play to be holding Tyreek. I don't think you have to move off him. I think you can stick with him. Potentially, even if you're in a small rebuild into next year, I think you can still stick around. However, if you can get wide receiver 5 value, which I'm skeptical you can, but if you can, there's going to be an opportunity to sell.
Yeah, agreed. I think you've absolutely smashed it. And I know, Kev, you play on a sort of 2-year window in terms of Dynasty. There's no concerns for me about Tyreek Hill. Now, from what we've seen, hit it off with Tua straight away. There's no concerns from me what he's going to do in the next 2 years. It's just, as you mentioned, that playing style going forward. His main weapon is his pace. So if he was to lose a step, then you lose complete different wide receiver he looks going forward. And yeah, I had the concerns going forward, especially with Tua at quarterback, whether he could sustain these 2 wide receivers. We know Jalen Waddle set the rookie record for targets and receptions last year. Obviously had brilliant chemistry with Tua in that first season. So how is it going to spread out with Tyreek Hill there as well? But I mean, you just got to follow the money. Tyreek Hill was paid a hell of a lot of money. They're going to get him the ball. I mean, he's such a cheat code. He's amazing on the ball. They don't just throw bombs to him. They throw him in the short yardage as well. Just use him all over the pitch, and he's done brilliantly for the Dolphins. And they're rightly where they are in the AFC, half a game away from the Bills now. So yeah, I couldn't believe the stats going from Patrick Mahomes, as you mentioned, to, I mean, in his best season, he averaged 92.4 yards per game, which you'd take for any wide receiver. Yeah. He's now averaging 122.7 yards per game in Miami with Tua.
Over 30 yards.
Yeah, over 30 yards more with Jalen Waddle playing opposite him as well, who himself is averaging about 90 yards per game. So, yeah, it's incredible where they are. But yeah, only the 3 touchdowns. That's the only blip on his record this season. I expect that to increase a little bit, especially with all the yardage that he's getting. But yeah, he's a wide receiver 1 regardless of the touchdowns, so they're just a bonus anyway. So his value-wise is certainly interesting. I've always been slightly higher on Tua than consensus. Not Tua, sorry, Tyreek. Just because I know how amazing he is. He got paid a hell of a lot of money. I didn't think he's going to fall off a cliff. But there certainly was concerns, especially with how he's going to fit into that offense. But we'll look at what you think his dynasty value is with these trades, Kev. So first trade is Tyreek Hill and a 23 third, or T Higgins and a 23 second.
Yeah, I've got T Higgins above Tyreek Hill, so I'll take the T in the second side on that one. Just I just feel that T Higgins he has still got more room to grow. He's probably going to struggle without Jamar Chase. I feel like people are expecting him to become wide receiver 1. He might struggle a little bit, but yeah, for Dynasty, for long term, I'll take T Higgins upside and the better pick.
Yeah, I think, and that's interesting because that's the sort of trade you could possibly make right now with T Higgins struggling, as you mentioned, without Chase, and Tyreek Hill absolutely flying as wide receiver 1. You could probably maybe get a little bit on top of T Higgins and do that trade right now. So second one would be Tyreek Hill and a 23 second, or your guy AJ Brown.
Yeah, I'm going to take Tyreek Hill in the second on this one. It's hard to win AJ Brown after I was gushing over him last week as my wide receiver 3 overall, but I think same tier for me as Tyreek Hill. It's sort of after the first 2, you've got like maybe 3 to maybe 10. That's a very similar tier. So yeah, I'll take that in any build really. I'll take Tyreek in the second.
All right. So last trade scenario would be Tyreek Hill or 2 23 firsts.
Yeah, this is tough. This is tough. I'll just take a punt on the picks, I think.
Okay. I like it. I guess you're trading away TYREEK at what you say peak value right now, almost, especially with his age situation. We know how much of a amazing draft class this could work out to be. So they're not really dart throws, are they? You're going to get you'd hope for one of them to be at least a mid-round pick. 2 late picks is a little bit different, but
if you're not a top 4 team, I think that you should be looking to sell, really. Like let's say you've got 10 teams and you might have like 5 that are all right and 5 that aren't, but I'd rather have 3 that are really, really like going to have a shot, and maybe make 2 of those into a rebuilding side with moves like this. If you're not a top 4 side, I just feel you're trying to get lucky, which you might do, but it's not a good process in my eyes.
Yeah, all right. And talking of good process,
we'll
go to Tyreek Hill's old team, and we'll go for a wide receiver that you definitely like for Dynasty, Kev. We're going to talk about JUJU Smith-Schuster. And it wasn't looking so great going weeks 1 to 5. Just the 257 receiving yards as he integrated into that offense. The wide receiver 50, so wasn't the best start. We know he's just got that 1-year contract, so there was certainly doubts about how he's fitting in. But from week 6, the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but he's played 3 games because he's had a bye week. 325 yards, and the wide receiver 6. It's been a pretty incredible turnaround from JUJU. 22.2 points per game the last 3 games that he's played in, and he's also more importantly, the clear emerging number 2 target on that team, taken over from MVS. Obviously, Travis Kelce's always going to be the number 1 target. That's not going to change in the next couple of years. But for someone to come in like JUJU, who's been a wide receiver 1 before, it's really encouraging going forward for him to be that number 2 target of a Patrick Mahomes offense that's thrown at his career high as well. 41.4 attempts per game he's registering this season, which is 3rd in the NFL. And then at the same time, the Kansas City defense is conceding more points per game than they were in 2021. So Mahomes is having to throw more. There's more opportunities for JUJU going forward. And then he's also on pace now for 128 targets, 94 receptions, and 1,237 yards. So yeah, that's exactly what you signed up for, Kev. That's why you love JUJU. And then in dynasty wise, he's just 25 years old. He turns 26 in 2 weeks' time, so he's still a fairly young wide receiver asset. Are the Chiefs going to hand him a contract? Well, I think if he carries on playing this well, I don't see how they can't, unless he's going to price himself out of a move. But when you're with a contender, why would you want to price yourself away from that team? The Chiefs, just looking at their cap, the 12th most provisional cap space for 2023. So maybe they've got the room to do it. And then just looking at that keep trade cut, he's wide receiver 37 right now. He's my wide receiver 28. Kev, I'm guessing you're slightly higher than that as well. Just that wide receiver 37. I'm quite surprised because keep trade cut, it's not always the best metric to go on, and a lot of the times if you have a big game or 2, you shoot up the rankings further than what you should. But wide receiver 37 is still reasonable value. I think there's a lot more room to grow in that, especially if the Chiefs were to hand him a contract for a guy that will be 26 years old, that already have a possible 1,000-yard season under his belt on that team. He's going to be a top 24 wide receiver in my opinion. So there's certainly room to grow if he gets that deal in KC.
Yeah, keep trade cut absolutely hates JUJU, to be honest. Like they've been so low on it. Well, everyone that's voting's been so low on him, to be honest. Like, how is he not higher? Like, I know I'm a bit ridiculous and he's in my top 20, but yeah, I did have my concerns early on this season. Like you mentioned, first 5 weeks, I was thinking, guys I like JUJU and Thielen and Allen Robinson, they're all stinking, but JUJU's really pulled his act together in the last sort of 4 weeks. Outstanding play. I think the concern is, does he get a contract after this year? That 1-year deal, that low amount of money. It is funny that people thought, MVS got more money. He's going to really into JUJU's targets, etc. But no, it's not the case. I think it's one of those where maybe he has done a prove it deal just to sort of help him longer term to get onto a team like the Chiefs and showcase himself rather than sort of chase the money and end up on like a really bad team, like let's say the Bears. Like if he's on the Bears, he's done. He deserves to be a wide receiver 37 at Keep Trade Cup, but I don't think he does on KC. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Juju. I'm always way above consensus. Once he gets that deal, which I think he will, hopefully people will come to senses and get on board and follow me. But we'll see if you follow me on these trades. We've got the first one, Juju and a 23 first, or Debo and a 23 second.
This is horrendous because Juju is someone that I'm obviously getting higher on the game after game that he puts in these performances. But Debo is someone that I think I ranked him a top 6 or 7 wide receivers pre-season. I love Debo. I love the Russian floor that he brings. But the fact that they've now got Christian McCaffrey to take a lot of that work away, Debo, is he just going to be a pure wide receiver going forward? Well, who knows? But there's certainly a lot more interchangeable pieces on that 49ers offense. You then throw in Trey Lance next season. Debo's not going to have the same floor or the same ceiling that he's had without Christian McCaffrey. So with that, I'm going to take Juju, who I think is going to be a top 24 wide receiver come the end of the season, and I'll take the first on top. But that'd feel pretty gross right now because I'm high on Debo.
Yeah, I feel that like if I'm the Debo owner and this fell into my inbox, it'd be a smash. But I'm not sure he'd get this deal just right now with him being injured, with him having a bye. So it might be that you have to wait a couple of weeks, see a flash of Debo. Maybe you can pivot from him if you are concerned. And obviously, if it's to a guy like Juju in a 23 first, lovely stuff. But next trade, we've got Juju or Mike Williams straight up.
I'm going to take Mike Williams. I've always been high on big Mike Williams. Love that LA Chargers offense. Such a shame because he's in so many of my fantasy teams and he's now injured, going to be out again for the next couple of weeks. So it's been heartache, but I'm going to take Mike Williams. I think he is possibly now the wide receiver 1 on that team. Keenan Allen's got his own struggles himself. So I just want to get Mike Williams back, and I'll take him just over Juju. But again, now there's not that many spaces between them.
Yeah, it's really close. I actually think both are really similar in terms of the situation. In terms of age, also I feel that Juju is a little bit more risky than maybe I lead on to believe, just with that 1-year deal. If he gets a long-term deal, it's not risky, but for the time being he is. Last trade then, I think I know the answer, but Juju or Michael Gallup and a 23 second.
Well, you say that, it's close because Michael Gallup, I don't know what's going on with Michael Gallup. I thought coming back from that injury, that situation, he's going to walk into a smash situation with Dak Prescott as the wide receiver 2 on that team. We've seen it happen before. And then the 23 second on top is really juicy. But if we're thinking Juju's going to be a top 24 wide receiver with a contract potentially on the Chiefs, I'll take the upside over Michael Gallup and his average play that you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do a Juju trade and not set it up that Juju was my answer for them all. So we'll quickly move on. So I'm not smiling too much.
We'll move on to someone who might be shone in a negative light at the minute. Someone you might be looking to pivot off, Kev. We'll see. Who do you want to talk about?
Yeah, it's Justin Herbert. Like in terms of standing out, it wasn't anything major. It was QB 18 on the week, but just I guess the eyeball test, seeing a few of the throws, seeing some of the receiving, his interception was it just bounced off Josh Palmer's hand into the defender's hands. So it was more me just seeing that actually he's still got it. It's just his situation's changed a little bit. QB 12 on the year in actual points of fantasy points per game. So after the lofty expectations that he had as finishing QB2 last season, people are rightly worried if you're expecting him to be a top 3 QB this season again. But remember, we're a Dynasty show. We play Dynasty. It's not redraft. We don't need to be overreacting and bump him down to a low QB1. Obviously, the Mike Williams and Keenan Allen injuries are massive for him, considering the rest of the receiving core room outside of Eckler and Everett. But also he's had his own rib injury, which I believe is still lingering. He's not rushing at all. I wouldn't say it's massively affecting his pass play, but just the rushing upside really is something that he's never been huge numbers wise, but touchdown wise, I think he's had 5 and 3, and it doesn't look like he'll get close to that this season. I think you will get your frustrated owners that own Herbert, and they're a win now team. Maybe there's a pivot to someone like Joe Burrow, which straight up I don't hate. I have Herbert higher, but they are going to have a similar range of outcomes throughout the career, I feel. So I'm not totally against that, even though I do have Herbert higher. But looking at Herbert's metrics, there's a couple that really stand out for me as elite, which is the pass attempts and the pace of play for situation-wise are really good. Also, it leads the league in money throws, which is all about making the big clutch throws, really accurate throws in tough situations. The flip side, and this is because of the wide receivers not being there, is he's low in yards per attempt, in air yards, and red zone efficiency. That's only going to get better when he gets these amazing weapons back. You've got a guy in the red zone like Mike Williams. You've got Keenan Allen, who's such a savvy player. That's going to obviously help bring those metrics up. But like I touched upon, the rush upside is killing him. He's killing his ceiling. He's had 51 yards on the year so far. It's barely nothing. Probably Tom Brady had 51 yards like last season, probably, because he was doing all sorts of funky slides. So really poor. He has dropped to QB5 in my rankings, below Hurts and Lamar, but I think that's more about Hurts stepping up and Lamar showing he can do it in a bad situation than Herbert actually failing. So I guess my thoughts on Herbert are, if you've got him on a contending team, there is a little bit worry there, but we are playing Dynasty. I think if you're thinking big picture, I'm not concerned at all. I think he will turn it around, and it's a great chance to buy low on him if you can.
Yep, summed that up perfectly, really. I think you're right to bring up Justin Herbert. We don't always talk about just guys that had a big week. We could say Dallas got it, had a great week this week. Let's talk about him. But no, we're a Dynasty show, so you're right to talk about the situations that arise. I agree. I think he's a great Dynasty buy target right now. He's 24 years old. We saw his ceiling last year at QB2 when he had the weapons fully fit. We know he's not fully healthy. Them ribs, I think they're still playing him up because of we're seeing him just not take off at all. He's waiting in the pocket, and he's just not playing to how we expect him to play from last season. He's not suddenly going to turn into a bad quarterback. And the fact that he's still being a low quarterback one with no Keenan Allen, no Mike Williams, I think it says a lot about who he is as a player and how mature he is as a quarterback as well. And I think just right now, I can't possibly see his value being much lower than they are right now. I think you've had a window that opened maybe a week or two ago, and it's still open for another couple of weeks till he gets these receivers back. The Chargers are desperate. He's going to continue to carry on throwing. I think there's a great chance to, as you mentioned, pivot off someone and buy Justin Herbert, or someone like a Tua in a little bit to get up and get someone like a Justin Herbert, who long term I've got more belief in. I absolutely love Justin Herbert. He's probably my favorite player who's not a Buccaneers player in the NFL. He absolutely love the guy. I've already got him in quite a lot of places, but I'm still looking to sweep up. If there is any Dynasty owners out there that are frustrated, that are going for it, even if you've got someone like a Justin Fields who's absolutely on fire right now, just to trade up and get Justin Herbert is something that I would do right now. But we'll see if there's some moves here that you'd do, Kev. Trade scenario 1, Justin Herbert and a 23-second, or Lamar Jackson. Yeah,
I'll take Herbert and the pick on this one. They're the same tier for me. Lamar has jumped in, but I think, if we're going purely on tiers, same tier, so I'll take the pick side, please.
Yeah, I've still got Herbert one place ahead of Lamar, but as you mentioned, in the same tier. We'll move on quickly. Justin Herbert or Deshaun Watson and a 23-second.
This is purely on upside, but I'm taking Watson and the second, just because I think that if Watson can get back to what he has been in the past, he's got a higher ceiling than Herbert, so I'll take that on the pick.
Okay, I'll take Herbert, but I thought that was really close in terms of value.
It was.
Scenario 3, Justin Herbert and a 24 first or Jalen Hurts.
You're naughty boy with these Eagles, weren't you? Yeah, I'll take Herbert in the pick. I think Herbert and Hurts, again, same tier. Hurts has got more short-term upside and probably week-to-week and year-to-year upside if he hits his potential. But yeah, I'll just take the Herbert on the pick and yeah, just go against the Birds. Go Birds.
Yeah, and I don't think it'd feel great to trade away Jalen Hurts right now. Obviously, you wouldn't be a contender if you're trading him away right now. But if you were to get Herbert and a first round pick for Hurts, I think that's a great move to make.
It's fair.
Yeah, we'll move on to the final player tonight, and it's going to sound a bit of a homer pick, but we're going to talk about a Buccaneers tight end with the clutch play this week, CADE OTTON. Yeah, absolutely love this guy. Rookie, first pick of the 4th round this year, and someone that Tom Brady has shown plenty of trust in, especially in the last few weeks. It was incredible to see that final drive with 40 seconds to go. Tom Brady didn't go to Mike Evans, didn't go to Chris Godwin once. It was all Scotty Miller out to the outside and CADE OTTON for the big play down the middle and then for the touchdown. It was a brilliant play and just shows that how far CADE OTTON's come from the first few games of the season. Cameron Brate was there. He was living under his shadow, but now Cameron Brate's obviously had the injury. He's been out for quite a while now. And CADE OTTON has stepped up and he's really shown to be a reliable hands for the Buccaneers. Not fantastic in terms of stats. Nothing's going to jump out. Tight end 22 on the season. And then since week 4, where his snap percentage went up above 67% per game, which is when Cam Brate went down, he's been the tight end 13. So he's just outside of being a tight end 1. We know the tight end landscape has been pretty trash this year outside of the top 3 or 4 tight ends. It's really looking pretty decimated. You're looking pretty desperate for a tight end and to start each week if you don't have one of them top 4 or 5 guys. But he was tight end 4 this week. Obviously, he scored the touchdown. I personally think he is a viable piece to start right now in your games week to week in redraft and certainly in Dynasty. I can see him being the long-term starter for the Bucs. They are rumored that I've seen Gronk is potentially eyeing up a return, which I mean I can't personally see it, but if he did, that would hurt his value short term. But we won't talk about the ifs and the buts. It is a bit of a mess, the tight end landscape. So CADE OTTON is someone that's not going to cost you a lot right now. I think if you're in a situation where you've got a few picks to hand, probably some future picks, I'm happy to throw out a pick to get someone like for a CADE OTTON who's got the size, the speed. He's shown everything so far, especially in this short window of only about 3 or 4 weeks where he's turned into the starter and he's sort of producing fairly decent numbers. And I think there's a lot more to come out of him. So yeah, I'd certainly, if in Dynasty, you got to play the value. So obviously he's seen a bit of a rise in value. You can possibly, knowing the landscape, you can use that value to trade off of him if someone is high on him, or if people are still low on him, he's still gone under the radar. I think he's a great target to go after.
Yeah, it's funny when we was coming to pick the players for this week's show, and I kind of wanted to speak about CADE OTTON, but I'll let you sort of take the pressure and take it as the Bucs fan, and we'd live up to the Homer fandom. But I think really stood out to me this week the fact that the game's on the line. I'm not going to say the season's on the line because the NFC South's pretty rubbish, but it was a massive drive and potentially season-changing drive. And the fact that on the field there was Evans, Godwin, Julio, Fournette, Tom Brady, and out of all those guys, it was CADE OTTON that was the clutch play, the last play of the game as such. So that was an eye-opener to me. I think you made some fantastic points about start of the season. There was Cameron Bray, it was Kyle Rudolph that was meant to be the saviour, etc. And CADE sort of worked his way into the lineup. He's a rookie tight end, which, if you look at his snap percentages, he's not just playing pass downs, he's playing high snap percentages. People are wetting themselves over Isaiah Likely and Greg Dulcich, but CADE, he's doing it he's facing more competition to stand out, and he really stood out this week to me. So I think while Likely and Dulcich have done great, CADE's got to be sneaking up there as well as a guy like Daniel Bellinger, who's been pretty decent. Maybe we'll speak about a couple of those in a minute, but yeah, CADE is a guy. And again, you made a really good point on rebuilding. Let's say you're one of the worst teams in your league. Could you send, like, say, the 301, the 302 and get CADE? I'd be pretty confident you could get that, maybe even in Titan Premium if people aren't really sharp. Maybe stuck in a taxi or something, I don't know. But yeah, I think he's still being a little bit underrated, and you haven't got long to get on him, really. Maybe if Gronk signs, you can go after him then, because Gronk's a great sixth lineman at this stage, I'd guess, or definitely in the short term. So trade-wise, I'm going to throw a few at you. I think I might know where the answers will go with you being a Bucs fan, but we'll go for it anyway. CADE and a 23-second or Greg Dulcich?
Yeah, this is a good one because Greg Dulcich is the tight end dynasty darling at the minute. A lot of people are queuing over Greg Dulcich. I actually didn't realize he was on one of my taxi squads in a league where I'm contending, and I've got 2 tight ends that are on buys this week, so it's brilliant that I can throw him in there. But I'm going to take the CADE side and the pick. I think if you get in a 23-second when there's 2 tight ends involved that pretty much in a similar tier, I'll take the pick all day long. Agreed.
Trade 2, CADE or Daniel Bellinger?
Yeah, I'll take Otton as well at this side. Daniel Bellinger has been really impressive as well, coming in as a rookie. Again, there's not too much between them. I know more about CADE and what he can do to that team going forward. The opportunities are there for CADE, and I think he's going to continue to see more usage going forward. So I'll take that side.
Yep, I'm on board with that. And then the final one, CADE or Jelani Woods and a 24-second.
Wow. This is really difficult because Jelani Woods, he's shown flashes, and especially in terms of catching touchdowns in the red zone, he's an absolute monster. But he doesn't impress me enough. He's not someone that I like to try and I'm interested in building a team round or even rostering him at the minute. But the 24-second, I mean, if you're getting a second for a 4th round tight end right now, I think it's about where the value is. I'll take the pick side because I think it being a second, I think I'm happy to take a swing on someone in a second and have Jelani Woods and just hope for some upside where I can flip him.
Yeah, it was really close to me, hence why I picked it. But yeah, I just think Jelani Woods was a high rated prospect in my rankings for rookies, and yeah, there is a little bit of pause after what's been going on at the Colts. But yeah, I'll take the 2 shots rather than the 1, even though I do love CADE from this week only.
Yeah, and there was a nice video actually of CADE on the sideline. He lost his mum in September. Suddenly, and it was obviously a horrific time for him, and it's affected him. But for him to come back to secure that first touchdown catch that won the game for the Buccaneers, there was a really nice moment on the sideline where he looked up at the sky, and said that a mum, was there to witness it, and she was with me. So, yeah, it was a great video. If you do check it out.
Great.
And with that, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Wildcard and subscribe to us on YouTube by searching Fantasy Wildcard Podcast Network, where you have the Fantastic Rewind show on there as well. Plus, leave us a 5-star podcast review if you could. It really helps us gain a wider reach. And then join us every Tuesday for this podcast and every Wednesday for the stream of the show so you can see our beautiful faces. And with that, thank you once again. Have a good one, and we'll see you again soon.